But I would love to hurt him and finish him and put him out.
How was he punching? Was it hurting
Like
you?
a son of, he punches like a mule kick. Unbelievable. Excuse my French, please. Oh, my God.
It's time!
You're listening to the Cage Nation TV Prizefight Podcast. Coming to you from the Coastal Cameron Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Are you ready?
Here's your host, the big fella, Albert Cameron.
Let's get it on!
Thank you for joining us for the Prizefight Podcast. I'm your host, the big fella, Mr. Albert Cameron. And before we do anything else, while you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click the like button, subscribe, and we're bringing the Prizefight Podcast, Cage Nation TV, and Cage Nation TV South directly to you. The hard work's already done. All you got to do is sit back and enjoy, consume a bunch of combat sports. The original Cage Nation TV since 2013, bringing you guys fight action news, commentary, content, all kinds of good stuff. Today on the Prizefight Podcast, it's no secret by now that you know that Anthony Joshua defeated the Dr. Steelhammer, Wladimir Klitschko. It was a classic bout. Klitschko lost in grace. It was exactly the way it should go down. Today on the Prizefight Podcast, I'm going to sit down with some numbers. I'm going to sit down with some statistics. And we're going to talk about why Wladimir Klitschko isn't in the same conversations as maybe a Mike Tyson or an Evander Holyfield. We're going to talk about the Klitschko era and why it's a big deal. And why we're not talking about it more. We got This Week in MMA History, all that and more. It's the Prizefight Podcast. Don't go nowhere. Cage Nation TV would like to take a second and formally thank all of the businesses that have taken the time to sponsor a mixed martial artist or a boxer as they have trained to attain greatness. In the world of business, it can be looked at as an advertising expense to get your name out there. But did you know that your sponsorship dollars is actually keeping the American dream alive? Your help and support is actually changing the lives of aspiring athletes. Working hard and reaching for the brass ring is truly the great American story. We encourage all of our listeners and followers to support businesses that sponsor your favorite fighters. And thank you to those businesses for your continued support and encouragement.
This week in MMA history.
This week in MMA history, April 30th through May 6th, May 3rd, 2014 at Gladiators of the Cage Road to Glory 6, GOTC middleweight champion Chris Dempsey would defend his title against Nick Krause in the main event. The bout with Krause would be his last before being signed to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. April 30, 2011 at UFC 129 St. Pierre vs. Shields, the UFC hosts the first sanctioned MMA bout in Ontario since the sport was legalized in the province. The event would prove to be the largest UFC event in North America, coinciding with a 2-day UFC Fan Expo. Welterweight champion George Rush St. Pierre would defend his title against challenger Jake Shields. May 4th, 2001 at UFC 31 Locked and Loaded. This fight card saw the debut of 3 legendary names in the sport: Matt the Terra Serra, the Monster Kevin Randleman, and the Prodigy BJ Penn. This bout also marked the first time that the modern era weight classes were seen. Lightweight to light heavyweight with the weight limits they have now. Heavyweight still had no upper limit at this point in time. May 1st, 2000 at Pride FC Grand Prix 2000 Finals, former UFC heavyweight champion Mark the Hammer Coleman would go on to defeat Ice Cold Igor Vovchanchin to become the openweight champion. On his way to the bout with Vovchanchin, Coleman would defeat Akira Shoji and was awarded a 2-second TKO victory over Kazuyuki Fujita when Fujita's corner threw in the towel after the bell to avoid health risks to their fighter. Welcome back to the Prizefight Podcast. I'm your host, the big fella, Mr. Albert Cameron. And let's take a moment and congratulate Anthony Joshua. Defeated Dr. Steelhammer, Wladimir Klitschko. That man is a champion right now. And it's important for me to say that because in everything we're going to talk about in the next couple minutes here, I don't want to take away from Anthony Joshua. He trained, he put in the work, he made the effort, he was successful in defeating Wladimir Klitschko. Let's take nothing away from him. The spotlight, the congratulations, the kudos, the well wishes, the pats on the back, they belong to Anthony Joshua. And may that man have a very lengthy, very successful career. And hopefully in a couple years, we're having the same talk about Anthony Joshua. And maybe not even a couple years. Maybe next month, maybe next week, after his next fight, we're going to be talking about the reign of Anthony Joshua. Today, though, I wanted to have a conversation that started where all good conversations should start. It started where all good exchanges of ideas, uninterrupted, unmolested by things of anger, of quarrel, of differing opinion, where everyone can have their say without fear of persecution, without fear of being told off, without fear of being humiliated. This conversation started on the internet. I know, we're shocked. Why didn't I go to the internet with this sooner? Albert, what's wrong with you? I started off with this conversation at the Sherdog Boxing Forums, and if you've ever been to the Sherdog Forums, you know it is a bare knuckle, I'm just asking to be picked on, how dare you start a valid conversation kind of place, with the caveat that the Boxing Forum is actually rather mild. The Boxing Forum is actually very calm, very complacent. They're willing to hear you out, willing to have your ideas heard and even contribute to them. So with that being said, the conversation started with, and this is pre the fight with Anthony Joshua, the question I had was, why isn't Wladimir and Vitaly Klitschko mentioned in the same conversations as Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield in the realm of best ever? Prior to Tyson Fury defeating Wladimir Klitschko last year for the heavyweight championships, and I say championships because if you are not a regular fan of boxing, you may be kind of surprised to know that there is no one boxing championship. There is no one premier boxing champion like the UFC has. The UFC has their own heavyweight champion. Boxing has the World Boxing Association, the International Boxing Federation, the World Boxing Organization. 3 or 4 titles actually make up one boxing champion. And actually, the Ring Magazine has their own boxing championship. And while I'm looking this up, if you had a hard time following boxing like I did, I recommend downloading the ESPN mobile app because they have a great breakdown of who's champion of what and where. And that is a great opportunity. That is a great resource to try to figure out what's going on with boxing at any point in time. The question I had was, why does Dr. Iron Fist and Dr. Steelhammer, the Klitschko brothers, why aren't they mentioned in the same conversation as Iron Mike Tyson and the real deal Evander Holyfield, or even Buster Douglas and Lennox Lewis? Why isn't the Klitschko brothers mentioned in the same greatest of all time conversations? I'm not saying that Wladimir and Vitaly Klitschko belong in the same conversation as maybe a Mike Tyson, as a Boom Boom Mancini, as a James J. Braddock, but I think at this point, they've earned their due. Wladimir Klitschko was a heavyweight champion for so long that between his reign and Vitaly's reign, it was a period of say 10 so years called the Klitschko era. Kid Dynamite didn't have an era. And when I say Kid Dynamite, I mean Iron Mike Tyson. There was no Tyson era. There was just a period of time where Tyson absolutely dominated. And let me put this out here too. I'm not trying to take anything away from Iron Mike Tyson. I am not trying to defame his legacy. As far as favorite boxers go, I think Mike Tyson is in my top 2 or 3. Tyson's definitely up there. I have a lot of emotional ties to Mike Tyson. I love watching him fight. I enjoy watching his classics. I think his story is absolutely fascinating, where he came from, where he's going, what he's been through. I'm not trying to take away anything from Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield or Bernard Hopkins. I'm trying to defend the legacy of the Klitschko brothers a little bit. If anyone has an era named after them, and not just that, but here's what really bugs me about the Klitschko era, is one that I missed it almost entirely. I personally didn't discover Vitaly and Wladimir Klitschko until a couple years ago, when I started listening to the HBO Boxing podcast. The inspiration for the Prizefight podcast and what you're listening to today was inspired by the HBO Boxing podcast, Kieran Mulvaney, and the stuff they were putting out. And I'm hearing the pre-fight stuff for the Klitschko era. The Klitschko era occurred whenever boxing was at a low point and whenever MMA was at a high point. So the last 10 years, I've been really, really focused, zeroed in on the world of mixed martial arts, and that's a shame. And there was a fair amount of Kool-Aid that I was drinking, and I believed that MMA was superior to boxing. Again, drinking the Kool-Aid. I was led to believe that the sport I love the most was superior to other sports, and I really missed out, and I understand that now. I understand that I let my ignorance take a lot of things away from me. So, I missed the Klitschko era almost entirely. So then I'm listening to Kieran Mulvaney talk about Tyson Fury taking on Wladimir Klitschko for the heavyweight championship. And even before that, after that, Kieran Mulvaney and the HBO Boxing Podcast really turned me on to Canelo Alvarez, Miguel Cotto. So mad props to those guys. So I start looking into Wladimir Klitschko and Vitaly Klitschko. And I'm just completely blown away by what I've missed. Some great fights, some heavy-handed knockouts. Like, there's a reason why Wladimir Klitschko is known as Dr. Steelhammer. Why Vitaly Klitschko is known as Dr. Iron Fist. Okay, these aren't clever nicknames. These are observations of how these men perform. So now I'm thinking, okay, like, how does someone with a record like Wladimir Klitschko not go? How do I not notice him? I actively go out of my way to watch people hit each other in the face. Okay, that's what it boils down to. I enjoy seeing people hit other people in the face. If I had to explain what I do, what my passions are, people hitting people in the face. That's it. That is the core of what I do, what I'm about, people hitting people in the face. Wladimir Klitschko defeated Ray Mercer in 2002. Ray Mercer was more on my radar than what Wladimir Klitschko was, because Ray Mercer was getting into MMA. Let's take a moment for a moral of the story, kids. If you're sitting here listening thinking like, oh my god, MMA is so much better than boxing, oh my god, I can't even, you need to cut that shit right now. Knock it off, okay? Narrow-mindedness is robbing you of fantastic opportunities. Let's not forget that. Wladimir Klitschko started his boxing career in 1996. So while Klitschko's getting started, Tyson is waning. Tyson's career is waning in 96. I mean, prison sucked. It was awful. And after prison, he had some high-profile fights. But towards 96 to 97, he starts going downhill. And that's around the time he bit Evander Holyfield's ear. And to me, that's the moment where Mike Tyson became the most human. In prison, Mike Tyson, let me rewind that a little bit. Mike Tyson goes into prison whenever I'm in elementary school. Before Mike Tyson went to prison, he was an unstoppable monster. His loss to Buster Douglas might have even been a fluke if you're drinking the mainstream media Kool-Aid. Buster Douglas earned that victory, and don't let no one tell you different. So I'm sitting around in rural Pennsylvania thinking, oh my god, Mike Tyson's the man. He goes to prison, and he still looks like a badass in prison, and that is what it is. And then the movie Animal comes out. It's like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty on-the-nose portrayal about what that's about. Mike Tyson comes out of prison. He's still a legend. But when Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, that's when Mike Tyson became human to me. He was on WrestleMania 13 with Generation X and all that pro wrestling stuff. But when Evander Holyfield got bit, that's when Mike Tyson's mystique left my consciousness. So Wladimir Klitschko coming into boxing as Mike Tyson is coming out. And then all bets are off. Heavyweight champion, the Klitschko era shall reign. And Albert Cameron really missed out because he was under the misguided assumption that mixed martial arts is better than boxing. So now I'm asking myself, I'm asking Sherdog, why isn't Wladimir Klitschko mentioned in the same conversation as Mike Tyson, perhaps Evander Holyfield, as one of the best heavyweights? Or, why isn't Vitaly and Wladimir mentioned as two of the best heavyweights in, say, like the last 25, 30 years? And the answer I got boiled down to one thing. Wladimir Klitschko and Vitaly Klitschko were too mild-mannered to compete with the Tyson reputation. And when you're heavyweight champion, when you're in public spot like that, it's sad but true. Your public image, your public persona has a lot to do with it. I mean, when you're the champ, you think you're the baddest man on the planet. If you watch the movie Cinderella Man, Max Baer Sr. was portrayed as this killer, as someone who was going to rip James J. Braddock's head off and spit down his throat and go have his way with Renee Zellweger. And it was done that way because it's dramatic and romantic. We want to think that the heavyweight champion is either this unconquerable hero or this marmy D-bag a-hole that just needs to be beaten. And if you listen to interviews with Max Baer Jr., who played Jethro Bodine in the Beverly Hillbillies, the original TV show, he said that whenever his dad had killed the fighter in the ring, it haunted him. It haunted him, and he had a hard time living with it. And that's not what we saw in Cinderella Man, but it's because the romantic idea that the heavyweight champion is supposed to be this unconquerable hero or this villain to be defeated. And that's what Mike Tyson had going for him. He was this monster who absolutely penetrated, who absolutely defeated everyone's confidence. everyone's momentum, everyone's esteem they built for themselves, Mike Tyson was able to defeat and destroy, and it wasn't maybe fair to a lot of the guys he was fighting, but whenever the fights would go on, it's like, man, I wonder how long it's going to take Mike to destroy this guy. Buster Douglas showed that Mike Tyson was vulnerable. But then a lot of people are saying, oh, Tyson didn't train right. Oh, Tyson, he was in Japan enjoying himself. He didn't take Douglas seriously. Buster Douglas's mom died 2 days before that fight. So if anyone had the right to be in a wrong headspace, it was Buster Douglas. But he went out and won the heavyweight championship. Now, I don't know that much about Wladimir Klitschko. I don't know the legend about Wladimir Klitschko because he doesn't have that personal persona of Mike Tyson. I can tell you this, though. Watching the post-fight interview between him and Anthony Joshua last night, I can tell you that Wladimir Klitschko is one of the classiest prize fighters I think I've ever seen. He said simply, the best man won the fight. There was no, oh, he cheated, oh, I was robbed. No, it was the best man won the fight. And you can tell by that post-fight interview alone that Wladimir Klitschko has a confidence about himself. He says he's going to go back and see what went wrong. So I think Wladimir Klitschko is going to have another couple fights, and I think they're going to be spectacular. When I saw Wladimir Klitschko in the post-fight, I did not see a man who was defeated. I saw a man who was going to go retool some things. I mean, is the Klitschko era going to come back? No, I think that's gone forever. But I could be wrong. And that's the beauty of prize fighting. That's the beauty of sports, actually, that anyone can be the underdog at any time, and the underdog story can always be triumphant. That is sports. That's how it goes. But the answer to my question is, why isn't Wladimir Klitschko and Vitaly Klitschko mentioned in the same conversation about Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield being one of the best heavyweights in the last 30 years? It's because they didn't have that bad boy persona. Well, I'm not buying that. If you know anything about the big fella, you know that I am a very big fan of statistics. And my prep for the Prize Fight podcast this week was to take win-loss records, some very simple metrics, and I created a spreadsheet. Because that's what I enjoy doing. And I compared 4 fighters. I compared Iron Mike Tyson, Dr. Steelhammer Wladimir Klitschko, Dr. Iron Fist Vitaly Klitschko, and the real deal Evander Holyfield. I took their records. I took their wins, losses, draws, longest winning streak, and longest losing streak, and I compared them together. So for Mike Tyson, he has 50 wins, 6 losses, 0 draws. Of his 50 wins, 44 or 88% were by knockout, 6 were by decision. So if you look at that simple metric says that 88% of the time that Mike Tyson won, someone lost consciousness. Of the 6 times Mike Tyson lost, 5 of them, he lost consciousness. 6 losses out of 56 fights is, only 11% of the fights he lost. Not a bad number. And if you take that metric out of context, and say, oh, well, when Mike Tyson lost 83% of the time, he must have a glass jaw. No, he doesn't. He was just willing to go in there and throw hands. I mean, Mike Tyson will never be known as a conservative defensive fighter. Mike Tyson's legacy is that he went in there trying to take someone's head off. So now let's compare that to Wladimir Klitschko's metric. Mike Tyson's 50 wins earned him 89% of the times he fought, Mike Tyson won. 88% of the time, it was by knockout. Now, Klitschko's record, 64 wins, 53 by knockout. 83% of the time that Wladimir Klitschko has won, it's been by knockout. So now, let's look at the win percentage. Mike Tyson, of all of his fights, 89%. Wladimir Klitschko's at 93. Vitaly Klitschko, who only has 45 wins, is victorious 96% of the time. And this spreadsheet, I'm gonna post in the on CageNationTV.com. You can see the same thing I'm looking at. But the metrics are simple. The metrics don't lie. Mike Tyson victorious 89% of the time. Wladimir Klitschko 93% of the time. Vitaly 96% of the time. And Evander Holyfield 79% of the time victorious. Now the question is, well, maybe Mike Tyson fought more fights. No, he didn't. Mike Tyson fought 56 times. Wladimir Klitschko fought 69 times. Vitaly's numbers are a little deceiving. He only fought 47 times. So that number skewed. His win percentage is a little more pure, a little more unadulterated. Evander Holyfield fought 57 times. I'm not trying to take away from Evander Holyfield's record either. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to introduce the thought, the conversation. are we overlooking the Klitschko brothers just a little bit? Is Mike Tyson the untouchable legend that we all think he is? Mike Tyson is a legend, absolutely. Not taking that away. Evander Holyfield, a legend, absolutely. Not trying to take that away. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to introduce the thought that maybe the Klitschko brothers are doing something right. So, Wladimir Klitschko has 14 more wins than Tyson, 1 less loss. They both have 0 draws. Vitaly Klitschko has 5 less victories than Tyson, 4 less losses. Evander Holyfield has 1 less loss, or 1 less victory than Vitaly Klitschko. The point of the thing is I'm trying to introduce a methodology that these 4 men are very, very similar in their combat styles. Mike Tyson, though, does take it for having the longest winning streak of 37 fights. The first 37 times that Mike Tyson walked into a boxing ring, professionally, that the record was kept, Mike Tyson was victorious. So of Mike Tyson's wins, 74% of them were consecutive. Wladimir Klitschko, 24 was his longest winning streak. Vitaly Klitschko, 27. Evander Holyfield, 28. These metrics are here for a reason. And I'm looking at the spreadsheet I made, and it looks like the nutrition facts inside of a box of cereal. But it's important that we keep it this way. It's important that we look at it this way. And the reason being is, I really believe that the Klitschko brothers are not getting the respect that they are due yet. I think we are far enough outside of their careers that we can start having the conversation. I mean, do we start comparing Wladimir and Vitaly to Muhammad Ali? Probably not. But I think enough time has passed. I think enough has been secured. Enough has been accomplished that we can start talking about Wladimir and Vitaly Klitschko in the same conversation as Mike Tyson, maybe even definitely Evander Holyfield. The point of the Prizefight podcast today was the Klitschko era might be done. I don't think Vladimir's done. Mike Tyson has done a lot of great things in his post-fight career, but I think enough of a paradigm shift is occurring that when you talk about Mike Tyson, it'd be worth your time to start talking about Wladimir and Vitaly Klitschko too. This has been the Prizefight podcast. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Thank you very much for your love, for your support. Thank you for just keep joining us. Thank you for supporting the original Cage Nation TV since 2013. Bringing you fights from Altoona, Pittsburgh, Raleigh, Wilmington. Up next week on the Prizefight podcast, well, I have no idea. But whatever it is, I'm sure I'll be preparing it half hour before the mic turns on. And until next time, folks, fights, Cameron, action. Also, make sure you click subscribe and that like button. It's been the Prizefight podcast. I'm your host, the big fella, Mr. Albert Cameron. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cage Nation Prizefight podcast. All rights reserved. 2016 to 2017 Planet Aries Sports. The Prizefight podcast is part of the Cage Nation Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.cagenationtv.com.